Do you really have to give up your numpad to get Hall effect gaming performance? Redragon says no. This is the full-size VATA K580 HE. Most Hall effect gaming keyboards are going to prioritize smaller layouts. That gives you more room for mouse movement, but it also means losing the numpad, macro buttons, media controls, and other features that make a keyboard practical outside of competitive gaming. The VATA K580 HE is trying to give you both. It combines a complete 104 key layout with adjustable actuation, rapid trigger, dedicated macros, media controls, and an 8000Hz polling rate. But putting high-end gaming features on a full-size keyboard is only valuable if the rest of the board is actually good enough to use every day. So I tested its construction, gaming features, typing experience, software, and all the compromises that come with this larger layout. Inside the box, you've got the keyboard, a detachable USB cable, a keycap and switch puller, and 8 replacement magnetic switches. That's a lot. For a full-size keyboard, the K580 HE is pretty light. The thinner frame also made me expect a noticeable amount of flex, but it's actually pretty rigid for a thin board. There's a lot less flex here than on several other full-size keyboards I've tested under $100. So that's a good first sign. It shows Redragon didn't just throw on Hall effect switches to a cheap flexible shell. The entire reason to choose this instead of a smaller HE board is the layout. You've got the complete function row, navigation cluster, arrow keys, and a numpad. There are also dedicated macro and media buttons, as well as a volume roller. The keycaps use a recognizable Redragon design with large legends and a rounded aesthetic. They fit the proportions and the visual language of the board pretty well. The north-facing RGB also diffuses surprisingly well. Some of the other Redragon boards I've tested with this keycap layout had some issues with the light not diffusing evenly and taking away from the aesthetic instead of adding to it. The lighting here is composed uneven, and I think it does a good job of accenting the shape of the keyboard. The flat layout, raised function shelf, and exposed lower portions of the switches give the board a more premium appearance. It still looks like a gaming keyboard kind of, but it just has an extra level of refinement over a lot of Redragon's earlier full-size designs I've seen. So does choosing a full-size layout compromise the Hall effect experience? Not really. The K580 HE lets you adjust the actuation distance on individual keys, configure rapid trigger, and increase the polling rate through the software. So for my profile, for example, I'll make the WASD keys have extremely low actuation settings, like 0.1 millimeters. It's basically like a feather touch. And then a lot of the other keys I'll leave at the default 1.4 or whatever it is, so that they don't activate when you barely touch it. The big trade-off with this keyboard is physical desk space, obviously. If you play at a low sensitivity and you do large arm swings with your mouse, a compact keyboard is probably going to make more sense. But for anyone who has enough desk space, the K580 HE gives you the gaming features without taking away the keys you use for work, editing, streaming, macros, or whatever, everyday desktop use. This is where the experience becomes a little more complicated. The switches are firm and require a decent amount of force to push them down. They also have a fairly large amount of stem wobble, so the individual presses don't feel very tight or stable like the chassis itself. But overall, I gotta say the typing experience is still pretty decent. I feel like the pressure is kind of spread across the wide flat surface of the keycap. So instead of snapping downward like a light fast switch, each key settles into its travel with a larger and more deliberate motion. It feels like steering a boat rather than driving a quick and nimble car. You know what I mean? Here's a quick test so you can hear the sound profile. Given the wobbly stems and the boat-like feel, The typing experience is acceptable for a performance-focused keyboard at this price. It's definitely not a strength of it, but at this price, I'm not complaining about it. The real value of this board is in its performance. The software gives you the main features you would expect from a Hall effect keyboard. Got actuation adjustment, rapid trigger, polling rates, remapping controls, macros, customizing RGB. The most important thing with the software is the ability to create profiles. With Hall effect keyboards that you intend to use for everyday use as well, I think it's critical to create two profiles, a gaming profile and an everyday profile at minimum. While low actuation points are great for gaming, it's not always great for everything else. So what are the compromises? The first one is pretty obvious. This keyboard takes up considerably more desk space than a 60 or a TKL or something like that. That's first. Second is switch refinement. They're pretty wobbly. There's a lot of side to side and up and down movement, but at this price, I'm really not complaining, more like observing. The second is switch refinement. The chassis is actually surprisingly rigid, but the switches have more wobble than I'd like, and the heavier feel I don't think will appeal to everyone. Next, it is wired only, so if you're looking for a wireless board, this is not it. Although there are replacement magnetic switches included, you can't easily hot swap other magnetic switches into this board. So if you were thinking about customizing the switches later, this board is not advertised as being able to easily hot swap. So do you have to give up a full-size keyboard to get Hall effect gaming performance? No. The Redragon VATA K580 HE gives you adjustable actuation, rapid trigger, all those fancy advanced controls that are actually cheating in some games. A high polling rate, macro, media buttons, and a complete numpad in one keyboard. The full-size layout doesn't meaningfully compromise the gaming features. I'd recommend it to someone who wants modern Hall effect gaming features but still genuinely uses a numpad, macros, and dedicated controls in everyday use. If maximum mouse space or a premium typing experience matters more to you, I'd choose a smaller or more enthusiast-focused board instead. But for the person who wants one keyboard to handle competitive gaming and normal full-size desktop use, the VATA K580 HE answers that question better than most keyboards in this price range. What about you? Would you trade some mouse space for the convenience of a full-size Hall effect keyboard? Let me know in the comments what keyboard layout you prefer most. Personally, I think I might be a 75 guy. But alright guys, that's all I got for this one. I hope it was helpful. If you're thinking about getting the VATA K580 HE, I do have an affiliate link in the video description down below and pinned in the first comment. Feel free to use it to support the channel if this video helped you make a decision. If not, no problem. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.